Alright, well, I've been talking about this book, so I figured why not go ahead and read it and review it. So here it is, The Killer Angels by Michael Shaara. This came out, I believe, back in 1974, and it won the Pulitzer Prize, as I'd mentioned before. So a lot of people have reviewed this book. In fact, if you type this in, you'll probably see, a dozen reviews right off the bat. It's because it's a very highly regarded novel. My experience reading it, I think I read it for the first time. It had to have been back around 2003, 2002, 2003, somewhere in there. I know it was post 9/11, and I was living in Texas at that time. So I think I picked it up at a Borders bookstore. I don't think those don't exist anymore, right? So those are gone. But anyways, if you know nothing about the book, it is about the Battle of Gettysburg, which took place on July 1st, 2nd, 3rd of 1863. And this novel, kind of like Shiloh, which I already reviewed, it's historical fiction. Only this one, it deals with several real historical characters and is told from their perspective. The main ones are General James Longstreet of the Confederate States of America, General Robert E. Lee, and then the main ones on the Union side they're not generals. It's John Buford, who is part of the U.S. cavalry, and then he kind of drops out of the book, and the main guy that ends up taking over the Union perspective then is Colonel Joshua Chamberlain of the 20th Maine. So it's a very good novel. I rank it probably the best historical fiction novel that I've ever read, at least concerning the Civil War. But mention a couple of things about it. Number one, coming out in the 70s, I think that what I know, Michael Shaara based his book mainly, I think, upon the memoirs of General Longstreet. So that's why the book reads the way that it does. And I think also the portrayal of Lee in the book, with him being tired and seeming aloof at times, is that he's working from the theory that Lee had some sort of minor heart attack, and it left him slightly incapacitated. So that's why it reads the way that it does, and that's why the portrayal in the movie adaptation is the way that it is. So as I was saying, this book was adapted into a movie by Ted Turner. It was produced by his media empire back in the early 90s. I believe it was 93. The movie was adapted from the novel The Killer Angels, and maintains a lot of the dialogue from the book. Although the movie is not a complete and total one-for-one adaptation, it is trimmed down. Okay, so it's more like an abridged version. The script, it has some very fine actors in it. Tom Berenger, Martin Sheen, both as Longstreet and Lee, and then you have Sam Elliott as Buford. You have Jeff Daniels as Joshua Chamberlain, and C. Thomas Howell as his brother Tom Chamberlain. So the movie's kind of a mixed bag. Although it is an adaptation of the book, And it does feature a large cast, lots and lots and lots of extras. Some of the movie itself is dated. The costumes definitely could have used a touch up. The only person that really aged their wardrobe to look authentic to the period was Sam Elliott. Everybody else is kind of wearing like brand new, wardrobe. I'm not going to go too much into the movie. The movie is what it is. It's like a 4.5 hour film, I think, is how long it is. It's okay. It's not the greatest. It's probably one of the better Civil War films because there just aren't a whole lot of them. As a movie adaptation, being faithful to the book, it's pretty good. I can't fault on it too much. The one thing you're not going to get is some of the internal dialogue of the characters. For instance, there is a chapter later in the book told from the perspective of Lewis Armistead, General Armistead. So as he's on Pickett's charge, he has an internal dialogue going on that's not going to be in the movie. So movie adaptations do have their drawbacks. You don't get the internal mind of the character. Some elements are left out. For instance, I don't think the movie talks about James Longstreet's family, the tragic loss of them. They died, his wife and I think it was 3 of his 4 children. I think he had 4 children. I'm probably getting this detail wrong. Anyways, they all died except for one. They all got sick and passed away, which is very sad. So that I don't think is talked about in the movie, but it is in the novel. So it's really all I have to say about that. I will go on further and say that there was a prequel to this novel titled Gods and Generals, which was done by Jeff Shaara, which was Michael Shaara's son. It serves as a prequel to this, and he also did a sequel which finishes it out called The Last Full Measure. Sometimes they are packaged together as a trilogy. I've only ever read Gods and Generals once, I think right back around the same time that the movie came out. The movie is dreadful, at least in my opinion. I think the movie is terrible. Mainly because it tries to do too much, and I think that because the book itself tried to do too much. Whereas this takes place over 3 or 4 days, okay, and it focuses on one moment in time. That book is trying to cover, the entire build-up from the beginning of secession all the way to Chancellorsville. That is a lot of passage of time. And it's kind of scattered all over the place and unfocused. And unfortunately, the movie kind of becomes a mess as well because it's based off of a book that's kind of a mess. The Last Full Measure is much the same way, although they never made a movie of it because Gods and Generals didn't do well commercially, so they never finished it out. But the book itself, Last Full Measure, I can't recommend it. While I would highly recommend reading this, Gods and Generals, Last Full Measure, I could take them or leave them. Maybe Jeff Shaara has improved as an author. I don't know. I haven't read much of anything else that he's written. Although I do see that he did some of the Western theater of the war. So he has a book concerning the Battle of Shiloh, the Battle of Vicksburg, and some other books. So maybe I'll have to check that out. I don't know. Give Jeff another chance. We'll see. This book I've read 3 times. This most recent reading is the 3rd time that I've read it. So it holds up. I think it's a very well-written novel. And for me to revisit it, says a lot about the quality of the writing. So that's really all I have to say. Thanks for watching. Till next time, have a wonderful day.